seems like there's a lot of information here, and at one point I talked to a guy from Portugal, and I was asking him to teach a course here. He has a PhD from Cambridge University, and I was asking him to teach a course on European Union here in our program. And then he said, as a European, many Europeans, they don't know what's going on about European Union because there are so many things happen, right? That's exactly what this textbook is all about. There's, a lot of information, 50 years of integration, right? We know there's something going on about, regionalism and regional integration, but there have been, so many names, right, changing. Is it EU or EC or EEC, right? Different names, and a lot of treaties, right? A lot of treaties. Sometimes you don't even know which country is member of the EU, right? And which country is not. I'm thinking whether or not I'm going to draw a essay question from this chapter. If I may write one from this chapter, the question must be, is EU-type regional integration possible in East Asia? That's the question. Sort of a comparison between regionalism, regional integration in Europe and in East Asia. Right. Again, this textbook is highly Western-oriented. They don't cover what's going on in East Asia. There are regional dynamics going on in this region. So, right, is EU-type regional integration possible? If not, why? If so, why? That's the question for an essay. Today, I think that we need to understand some basic concepts, some basic theories or concepts about regionalism or regional integration. In other words, when and why regionalism occurs. Right? What is regionalism first? Okay, and when does that happen? Right? Why countries form regional group? Right? Why? What motivates countries to give up on their sovereign rights, right, and form supranational institution, such as, right, EU or whatever, regional integration organizations. So, any benefits from these supranational institutions from individual countries' perspective? I think this textbook discusses that. So some conceptual understanding of regionalism, regional integration, right? Why does that happen in the first place? What benefits, right, for countries, individual countries? Economic benefits, two aspects, economic benefits. There are economic benefits. When countries form regional group, first they think about economic benefits out of it. Right? In other words, by forming EU, European countries, they had some advantage in competing with non-European countries in trading, in terms of trading. So by becoming one, right, the assumption was they could have, trading advantage vis-a-vis non-European countries. So these economic benefits, they think about economic benefits first. And there are also, other, types of problems, technical problems, or functional problems that, according to this textbook, that are too big for one country to solve, right? Like, climate change challenges, climate problems, or pollution problems, right? Or yellow dust problems. These transnational problems that require, right, several countries, a number of countries to think about together, right, to resolve these problems. Many of problems are transnational, right? So rather than confronting these problems alone, right, they form a regional group. This is functional needs, technical and functional needs, right? That's why countries form regional, supranational institutions to resolve these problems. And finally, political benefits. By forming regional group, countries, right, proceed from some assumption, right, to resolve domestic problems. Right? Sometimes countries have internal problems. To get around these internal problems, right, they take these internal issues to supranational body. Right? Interest group conflicts, internal interest group conflicts, they take this issue to supranational body. Right? Like for instance, good example, it's not quite domestic issue, but Korean nuclear problem. Right? North-South, these two Koreas alone, right? For them, it's difficult to resolve this Korean nuclear problem, right? So two Koreas take this issue to six-party talks, which is regional security grouping, right? For instance, Europeans, same goes for Europeans. Security threats, right? Security threats. German security threat. To many Europeans, Germany is too big, right? Too powerful. So when European Union was first born, one of the outstanding motives for many Europeans was to anchor, right, the powerful Germany within the supranational body, right, so that Germany cannot, right, move alone, right. So this security problem, German security problem, right, that was one of the motives behind the EU, right, after World War II. And again, after 1990, when two Germanys were reunited, right, that question rose again, right? That unified European countries under the banner of, right, one Europe, where Germany is, right, tightly anchored, right? So the Germany does not rise again, right? Germany does not become a dangerous country, right, for Europe. So these security, problems, to resolve security issues, they need a supranational body. And the Soviet Union, the Soviet threat after World War II, right? That's another motive, security threat, Soviet threat. This was actually the U.S. intention, right, to protect Europe from the Soviet threat America supported the regional integration of the European continent to challenge Soviet threats, right? Because Europe was too weak, right, to confront the Soviet Union, right? So that was the U.S. attention. I mean, the U.S. intention. So these security threats tie together, right, individual countries to become one, right, supranational body, such as the EU. So economic benefits, right, security benefits, and political benefits, right? Now, I think having done this, right, this basic, like a why regional, what is regionalism, why regionalism occurs, having done this, then we need to go ahead and examine the evolution, historical evolution of the European Union, right? How and why European Union through what stages of development, right, reached the current stage. The current stage is the European Union, EU, right? The name is the EU, but formally under different names, right? Different stages. So different historical stages of European integration, right? We need to cover that, the historical evolution of the European integration. I think this textbook gives four different stages. So we need to examine each stage under different name, right? Then the theme, I think that it's important to remember, in each stage, right? The events in each stage. I mean, which countries joined, which countries became new member, things like that. But the entire theme, right, from 1957, then up to the present, right? What's the common theme that penetrates the entire history, 50-year history of the European Union? I think this larger theme we need to get from this textbook. Besides, stage by stage development of European integration, I think that because this is essential for understanding other cases of regional integration, to understand East Asia, right? These cases of the European integration is very useful. First, I think the way European integration develops, first they began with economic integration, okay? Economic integration. Then when the economic integration deepens, right, it becomes the second stage of integration, which is more political integration. So it begins with economic integration, then branches off into much deeper integration, which is political integration. Right? So it begins with economic integration and political integration. Sometimes it's difficult to distinguish these two types of integration, economic integration and political integration. I think, I cannot show you in terms of percentage figures, economic integration today, the EU, how much completion, how much percentage of completion, like 78%. Clearly, economic integration is much more advanced than political integration. Right? Economic integration, easier, right? Easier. what are you talking about when you say economically integrated? There are different types of, again, economic integration has some stages, several stages. Economic integration, you have several stages. Again, the easiest one, from the easiest one to most difficult one. Right? The easiest one is free trade agreement, FTA. Free trade agreement is the easiest type of economic integration. So usually, when countries integrate, they begin with FTA, free trade agreements. So again, European countries, at first stage, they began with free trade agreements. Then when free trade agreements deepen, then what comes next? What comes next after free trade agreement is customs union. This is just theory, concepts, right? When free trade agreement is completed, then you move on to the next stage, which is customs union. Okay. In terms of the EU, free trade agreement type of economic integration was so-called EEC. EEC was free trade integration, which was signed 57. 57 EEC was free trade agreement. The lowest level of integration, right? So FTA integration is lowest, and the goal of FTA integration is to get rid of tariff barriers among the signees. Okay, only among the signees. Okay, they don't care about imports from non-members. Okay, this doesn't apply to imports from non-members, only to members. That's FTA. So NAFTA, that's free trade type of integration, NAFTA. Right? And many other regional integration you know, many of them are this lowest type of integration mechanism. Customs union goes beyond free trade type of integration. Customs union is, again, cancel tariff barriers among members, but again, cancel tariffs from outside imports. So that's customs union. So customs union, in terms of European integration, customs union was did I say was I think I might have to revise a little bit. Did I mention economic European community? EEC, right? EEC, right. Customs union is EC, economic European community. That's customs union, which was signed 1967. So that's customs union. 1967. Economic community. So you know the difference between NAFTA and EC, economic community, right? European community. Right? So NAFTA doesn't, levy taxes from outside imports, right? Whereas EC levies, right, taxes from outside imports. That's customs, which requires deeper integration among the members, right? To do that, right? As a member of customs union, right? And Russia now currently is in discussion with Ukraine, who is now under penalty from Russia. Ukraine, Belarus, and other members, right? They are in discussion about this customs union. Right? Now, the third, the deeper integration, deeper than customs union, is economic union. Economic union. The current European Union is economic union. It's not customs union. The current European Union is economic union. How is it different from customs union? Customs union, the difference between customs union and economic union. Economic union is much fuller scale integration, right? No doubt, much fuller scale that includes all aspects of the economy, right? It's not just about tariffs, imports, exports. It's about, right? It's not simply about trade. It's about, according to this textbook, it's about 4 freedoms, so to speak, 4 freedoms. It's not about the movement of goods. It's movement of money, movement of people, and what's the last one? Movement of what? No, I mentioned money. Oh, services, right? 4 freedoms: goods, services, capital, people. These 4 freedoms. So in so doing, I think economies become, right, fully integrated. When you open up on all these 4, right, affairs, then economies are fully integrated, including non-tariff barriers, So in terms of integration, there are easy ones, right? Difficult ones. And like financial integration, probably most difficult one, right? When two countries, you know, when they get integrated, right? Probably the last thing they integrate will be probably financial integration, right? Banking integration. Different banks become, you know, come to live under one roof, right? On the unified regulation. It's a very difficult thing. So when these banking systems are integrated, right, no doubt, I mean, you can say these economies are almost one. And when people move freely, that's also an important measure of integration. Whether or not people can freely, right, move across borders, that's good measure of integration. It's not simply about visa issue, right? It's not simply about visa issue. It's much more than visa. Right? It's about probably like a citizen from, you know, Spain ends up permanently living in London, for instance. That's free movement of people, right? Then a Spaniard, right, left Spain, then settles in London, then getting same insurance benefits, right, pension benefits, I mean, same thing, right, must be given to this new citizen. And education, I mean, students move around, right, anywhere, they get same education without paying additional tuition, right? This free movement of people. So when this happens, right, economies are integrated, fully integrated. So movement of goods probably one of the easiest things. So these are steps of integration, like steps of integration. And I think that European countries followed these stages of development over time, right? From easy ones to difficult ones. Political integration, what comes into political integration, right? Political integration, again, much more complex than economic ones, right? Political integration. Two things I think are important in terms of political integration. One is, right? Yeah, right. I mean, sovereignty applies to economic integration also, right? Because sovereignty is not about, it's not simply about sort of a political control, right? It's also about economic control. So political integration is not, it's not simply about sovereignty. Both economic, political integration, it's about, both of them are about sovereignty. But political integration, two things are important to politically integrate. One is foreign policy and security policy. That's one area of concern for integration. Foreign and security policy. In other words, in terms of foreign and security policy, why this is important for political integration, as a separate countries, you have the assumption is that you have separate foreign and security policy, right? Meaning you have your own, definition of foreign policy goal, right? And definition of enemy. Who is the enemy? Who is friends, right? Which is very important. And defense policy. When and how you exercise power, military power, weapons. These come in the domain of foreign and security policy, right? And you need to coordinate these foreign and security policy, right? You need to coordinate that. In other words, different European countries have different degrees of I think what distinguishes foreign and security policies of European countries before they integrate was their conception about Russia. That is important. Their conception about Russia. Some countries view Russia as more of threats. Others less of a threat. Right? So that they have different foreign and security and military policy. The way Britons view Russia, the way Germany views Russia, the way France views Russia, they all have different views, different perceptions, right? So how they view Russia is very important determinant of foreign security military policy. And how they view America, that's another important measure of foreign security and military policy. NATO, right? What should be the role of NATO? Some argue NATO is important, right? NATO, which is not purely, uniquely European, right? It's not purely European institution. It's hybrid, right? Like a half American, half North American, right? So some argue that we need to move away from NATO and create Europe's own security and military institutions, so that security identity, defense identity, Europeans will have this, right? Its own identity. Some European countries emphasize this. Others, right, rely more on American, North American, NATO type of operations. To politically integrate, you need to, right, derive some sort of consensus on these issues, which is very difficult. Still ongoing, I think, still work in progress. This common security and foreign policy. This is exactly what Europeans call common security and foreign policy. CSFP. CSFP. This is something called second pillar of European integration. So first pillar, pillar one, is economic integration. Okay, economic integration. Pillar two, common security and foreign policy. As part of political integration, right? As part of economic integration, you have pillar one, economic integration, right? Then as part of political integration, you have pillar two, common security and foreign policy, CSFP. Ultimately, I think that there will be one defense minister, right? That represents, right, the entire European interest, and one minister for foreign affairs. Right? This is pillar two. Pillar three. What is pillar three? Third pillar of European integration. So that you have three legs. Right? European Union is walking on three legs. One is economic integration, security integration, as part of political integration. Then the last one. What is the third leg of integration? What is that? Yes?
Maybe civil or the courts?
Yeah, right. Like a judicial, like a social affairs. Officially, it's called, what is it called? The third pillar is called yes, Justice and Home Affairs. This is official name, Justice and Home Affairs, which addresses, right, issues relating to, right, courts, right, law enforcement, right, social debate, social issues, right, these issues. More of an internal affairs. So European countries, they need to coordinate their, right, social system, judicial system, right, along some unified standards. Right? Yeah.
Is there like a timetable for these plans?
Yeah, I mean, I'll get into that. I mean, all these, I think that these, right, Justice and Home Affairs, this pillar three is more of a recent development, right, clearly, than security, foreign policy, pillar two. Pillar one is longest history, long-standing, right, development. Pillar two, more recent. Pillar three, most recent, right, most current development, this pillar three. So this will help you understand much better, right, general frameworks for regionalism. This might apply to, right, regional integration outside the European Union. And in terms of, as Alex mentioned, so having done these general principles of integration, so now you have a better understanding of integration, right? Divided into economic one, political one, or three, right? Economic, security, home affairs, right? The three types of integration go in parallel. And in terms of like a answering your question, right? Where we are in terms of, right? Pillar 1, Pillar 2, Pillar 3. I think stage 1, as I mentioned earlier, European integration, I think, evolved through 4 stages. 4 stages. Okay, stage 1. Stage 1 is EEC stage, European Economic Community. Stage 1 is European Economic Community, which is, again, main issue was about economic integration, right? Free trade integration, right? And the treaty that decided that stage of integration was the Treaty of Rome, right? The famous Treaty of Rome was signed 1950, was it 1957? 1958, right? Treaty of Rome. That EEC came into being. Then EEC came into being through a merger of several other institutions, several smaller institutions, right? Because, you know, before EEC was born, there were smaller, like regional bodies, right? That later, transformed into larger one, which is EEC. Smaller ones was first ECSC, European Coal and Steel Community, right? The lesson from ECSC, because ECSC was the really beginning of European integration. ECSC, European Coal and Steel, it was about, you know, like a free trade agreement between Germany and France, okay, about integrating coal and steel industries in these 2 countries. That's how the European Union began, in the very first beginning, right? Then at that time, these industries were so crucial to European economic recovery. Then you have other energy-related initiatives. Many European countries formed another regional body, smaller body, which is called European Atomic, what is it, the name? Euratom, right? It's about European version of IAEA, right? The institution that monitors development of atomic energy. So these smaller bodies, right, integrated into larger one, which is ECSC, not ECSC, EEC, 1958. Your argument is these integration moves are discovered even before World War II, even in the 19th century. I think you can go back to even earlier history. I mean, Europeans, because they have a lot of conflicts, right? They lived in very close proximity, right? Many smaller countries have, a lot of problems with each other. So there were many, I think, proposals about, not exactly this type, but there were many proposals, even in the 19th century or 18th century. The question, why then these previous proposals, right, not resulted in substantial, right, outcomes, then the outcomes here in the 20th century. Again, it depends on how you interpret the progress today, right? Some still are very pessimistic, right? I mean, it seems things are going okay, but internally they have a lot of problems, right? At the center of which, I think Germany, again, still, there is Germany, because Germany is too big, right? Too big to be integrated. I think this is true in terms of economic, also from political perspective. Like a Eurozone. Eurozone, the currency integration is not satisfactory, probably because I think the economic gap, right? Economic gap between, you know, Germany and others then, right? The rest. So Europe, you have, right, Germany and the rest. That's it, right? That's the problem. That's the problem. Economic problem, but also political problem. So I'm not sure about how much of a difference in previous times, and maybe a little bit of more progress in the 20th century or 21st century, but we have yet to, right, wait until, on both counts, on economic integration and I think even more so on political integration and security integration. Right? We saw that, the crisis, right? Eurozone crisis. So, and this security and military integration, it's a far distant goal, right? And today, I think the countries, the members we are talking about is not like a 15, right? The originally 6, right? Originally 6, then expanded to become 15. Then now I think, is it 27? Right? Yeah, EU is 27 member. And look at the members, right? Look at the members. I mean, the other day there was a news report about the average income for just, you know, when you work for some, you know, daily pay, average daily pay in different countries within the EU, there's a huge difference, like Sweden to Romania, right? There's huge difference. The pay you get in Romania was almost 1/20th of what you get in Sweden, right? That's what sort of how the economies are, right? So you are a member of the same, right, union, right? But then you have very diverse, right, economies. Then how you, right? That's how you pull these countries in one direction, right? That's real problem, I think. And economically, and you know, security, right, and all these questions. Even the discussion about Turkey becoming a member, right? When Turkey becomes a member of the European Union, European civilization, you know that what that means for Europeans, right? As an Islamic, right, country. So, okay, I mean, it's a good point, right? Abhisheka, your point is well taken, right? So it's not European integration, it's not about, right, the thing of 20th century or 21st century, right? We can go back to earlier histories. But we have to see whether or not, you know, current integration will be really successful or not. We'll see. So first stage, EEC. The original founding member of 6, right? It began with founding 6 members. Founding 6 members. Do you want to know who are these founding 6 members? Maybe Abhisheka, you can name the founding 6 members of EEC, 1958. Who are the founding 6 members of EEC? Like a free trade integration members.
France and West Germany.
Okay. Yeah, Germany, France, they are really original members, right? Germany, France. Then who else?
Not East Germany though, right?
Yeah, West Germany, yes. West Germany, yes. West Germany, France, to be exact. Italy, right? Italy. Then Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Okay, these are founding 6 members. Okay, founding 6 members. Is the UK member of the EEC? No. Great Britain opted out, right? They opted out. Now, the second stage. Second stage. Then EEC then lasts until 1967, right? 1967. Then you have economic community. 1967. 1967. Then economic community, I think it was an important critical juncture in the history of European integration. First, economic integration, European community. First, you have more members, 15 members, right? Economic community included 15 members. So EC, 15 members, including the UK. UK joined 1973. Then you have Spain, Portugal, Greece, right? Respectively 1981 and 1986. And EC evolved throughout the 1970s, right? And the 80s, but over time, the momentum was weakened, right? The momentum for economic integration weakened, so that a famous European politician, Jacques Delors, he came out and released a very important political document, which is called Single European Act. It's a blueprint for further deepening European integration, right? Which passed 1987. After which European integration gained another momentum, right? Then evolved another 10 years. Okay? So Single European Act played a very important role. So the semblance of 4 freedoms was achieved under Single European Act, right, by Jacques Delors. And some institutional reform was done, right? The reason European integration slowed down was institutionally, right? Has problems, right? European regional bodies had some institutional problems, right? Because it was based on consensus system, right? So Single European Act reformed these institutional problems, right? Now then, third stage, right? European integration reaches third stage. Third stage begins with the fall of Soviet Union. Fall of Soviet Union and the reunification of Germany, right? Then independence of European countries, former European, East European countries. Now, through the process of reunification of Germany, there emerged a strong need for European integration. Again, Germany is reunified, right? Then you have poorer, independent Eastern European countries. European countries began to face new challenges after the fall of the Soviet Union. Now, they reached some agreement where they need to, right, speed up the European integration. Hence, the Treaty of Maastricht, 1992. The Treaty of Maastricht, Maastricht Treaty. Maastricht Treaty, which was signed in 1992, two important components, Maastricht Treaty. One is currency integration. Currency integration. So the currency, euro, is created. Second, political integration begins on a much fuller scale. Political integration. So the two pillars, two additional pillars, right, began to appear after the Maastricht Treaty was signed. Two additional pillars, which is foreign and security pillar, and home and justice affairs pillar, right? That appeared under the Treaty of Maastricht. Now, first, currency integration, how the currency gets integrated. First, after the Treaty of Maastricht was signed, first they created ECB, European Central Bank. European Central Bank was created. So this European Central Bank manages, right, takes the rights to monetary, financial policy in one hand, right? Second, Eurozone is created. Eurozone is created. So countries, they gave up on, right, currencies, their own national currencies, and joined the Eurozone, except 3 countries, right? Out of 15 members, right, 3 countries opted out of this currency Eurozone, which is Denmark, Great Britain, and Sweden. So they elected to remain outside the Eurozone. Then you have political integration begins on a fuller scale under the Maastricht Treaty. So you have debate about foreign and security policy and common justice and home affairs policies. Now, so I think that what you have to remember is that political integration, right, on a fuller scale began under the third stage, in the third stage, right, with the Maastricht Treaty. Then the final stage, stage 4, the fourth stage. The final stage is called the enlargement stage, right? The enlargement stage. So whereas in the previous stages, European integration was about deepening, right? Then the fourth stage is about widening and enlargement, broadening, right? So the first big enlargement occurred in 2004, from 15 members to 25 members. So 10 additional members joined in the European Union, mostly former Eastern European countries. In 2007, second round of enlargement, you have 2 additional members, Bulgaria and Romania. So finally, it becomes 27-member European Union, right, after 2007. There were several other additional moves after 2007 in terms of political integration. The Treaty of Lisbon was signed and got through the process of ratification in each country. Right? Some countries were rejected. So some institutional changes. You have created the institution of president. Okay, the EU now has a president elected for 2.5 years. Right, this is new institution. And you have, like I said, now the European Union have technically foreign minister, right? But under different name. He is called the High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. This is again new institution under the Treaty of Lisbon. So the High Representative for Foreign Affairs, he takes care of all the foreign and security, issues representing the European Union. And you have the European Parliament, right? You have the European Parliament. And in terms of, I haven't covered the organizational structure of the European Union. I mean, to understand, the president, the standing of president, the standing of the European Parliament, right? Things like that. You need to understand the organizational structure of the European Union. There are many different, right? Very complicated structure. They have, European Commission or European Council, Council of the EU, right? Council of the Ministers. So all these institutions, you go ahead and read. I'm not gonna put this on the exam, but better to understand, what other institutions, what other organizations there. Very confusing, right? Very confusing. Then I think you have the last section. The last section is about the potential challenges. The potential challenges waiting for the European Union. To give you a summary of these 3 or 4 challenges for the European Union. One of the remaining problems for the European Union is, again, after the global financial crisis, this financial integration within the European Union is very difficult. Right? How to advance this financial currency integration within the European Union is very difficult task. So this is one of the important remaining challenges for the European Union. Second, I think this is a problem that everyone expected from the very beginning of the integration stage, which is the gap between supranational body and sort of local governments. The gap is huge. In other words, a lot of complex decisions that is coming down from Brussels, supranational institution from Brussels, and these local governments at national level, right? They don't quite accept all, many decisions made in Brussels. So that is called democratic deficit. Yeah, this is second challenge, right? So Central European decisions and local, reality. How to bridge the gap. This is additional challenge for the European Union. And the last one, in terms of the way world politics is evolving, how Europeans position the European Union against other great powers, right? Like America or Russia, right? So will there be multipolar power among like a EU, America, Russia, China, right? So what's the standing of the EU in world politics? How should Europeans vision, right, the place of the EU in world politics, in terms of world politics, right? I think, yeah, I think Europeans, they need to think about it. They need to think about it. Is it going to be, at some point, I think someone said the world will be organized around like America, EU, China, these three poles, right? So EU, I think, as an organization, as a supranational body, they need to make some projections for future changes and understand their positions and stand. That's the last challenge. And the last point I want to make is to make some comparison. Make some comparison between Asian integration, regional dynamics here in East Asia, and regional dynamics we have learned from this chapter in European Union, the difference, right? And is it applicable to this region? The models, concepts we learn about European Union, right? Begin with economic integration, then moves into political integration. Is this applicable to East Asia? Right? Is there any, right? I mean, is there something? Is something going on about regional integration here in East Asia, right? And I think geography matters, and the combination of, if you look at East Asian countries, right? I said Germany, challenges Germany poses is very important for Europeans, but here challenges are quite different. You have, big countries like Japan, right? China, and not sure whether to include Russia or not, right? Here, into regional dynamics. And Korea is divided, right? And you have different sub-regions here. China, Korea, Japan, they belong to Northeast Asian sub-region. And you have ASEAN, all others, they belong to Southeast Asian sub-region. And could this Northeast Asian, Southeast Asian sub-region, could they be merged into larger Asian body, right? How about India? Should we include India into this? And how about America? Should America be included into, right, Asian dynamics? Americans, they hate Asians discussing regional integration. They hate that, right? So Americans become very sensitive when China, Korea, Japan, when they raise issues relating to regional integration, Americans become very sensitive, right? Because it goes against American initiatives. Because American agenda is not about Asian. American agenda is Asia-Pacific, because it's trans-Pacific relations. That's how America gets involved, right? When Asian issues are issues of Asians alone, right? America is excluded. But Asian issues are issues of trans-Pacific issues, then America gets involved, right? So that's why APEC, right, was created. And Asian alone economic body doesn't exist currently, right? APEC, which is Trans-Pacific Economic body, is the probably the longest, long-standing economic body here. Politically, six-party talk. Six-party talk. And China, yes, China, I think, elevated her standing immensely within the six-party talk. Look around. Throughout history, throughout modern history, in no official meeting did China chair. In no official meeting. Six-party talk, China chairs the six-party talk. China sets the agenda, invites people, invites countries, right? Because China is chair country for the first time. For the first time in history, in modern history, right? So China immensely benefited from the six-party talk, which is security related, supranational body. And there is one security institution linking Northeast Asia, Southeast Asia, which is ASEAN plus 3. ASEAN plus 3. ASEAN plus 3 began in 1996, right? At the initiative of ASEAN. So ASEAN, 10 ASEAN plus China, Korea, Japan. That's ASEAN plus 3. Right? So, I mean, differences, similarities between East Asia and European Union. That's something you need to further study. Okay, I think this is enough for today. And come back next Tuesday.